everybody, welcome back to this random journey. Today we're going to be making a yeast bread, but don't let that scare you away. I know that whenever I first started out making bread, the word yeast scared me because I didn't know how it worked. I knew that if I didn't do something right, that it wouldn't rise and it would just turn into a big mess. And didn't help that the first time I ever attempted to make anything with yeast in it, it turned out horrible. It was awful. And so I, for years, would not use yeast, and I finally attempted yeast bread again, and I found this recipe. It wasn't this recipe, but it was one that I found on YouTube, and I have adapted it. So originally, this yeast bread, you would have to let rise for 2 hours. Mine, you only have to let rise for about 30 to 45 minutes, if I'm thinking right. And it depends on the temperature in your house and that kind of stuff. It's kind of colder out because of the weather, and we don't keep our house like super hot. But anyway, today's video is just going to be more casual Feed Them Friday because I would like to talk to you as I'm making it, if that's even possible. So we'll see if I can get some conversation in with you about the remodel and things that's been happening this past week. Because I know that I didn't put up great content this week because like Wednesday I missed. But the kids put up their cute little fort video and that was really nice. So let's get into making this bread and we'll chat along the way. Let's go through the ingredients before we get started. I am choosing to do half a recipe, so all you have to do if you want 2 loaves of bread is to double the ingredients that I'm going to tell you. And I'll make sure to make a list down below in the description box so that you can get the amounts you're going to need for making bread at home. I find that our family only uses about 1 loaf of bread a week, and so making 2 loaves of bread just doesn't make sense for us, so that's why I'm choosing to only make 1 loaf of bread for you guys today. So you're going to be needing 4 cups of flour, and I use a whole wheat, very fine brown flour. Now you can use all-purpose flour and that will work out just fine. I choose to use this just because it's a little bit healthier and I can get it a lot cheaper at our local Amish store. The second thing you're going to need is 2 cups of warm water. Not too hot. I like to say just turn on the faucet and when it just starts getting warm, put your cup under there and by the time it's filled, it'll be the perfect temperature. And then last but not least, we're going to need 1 tablespoon of yeast and 1 tablespoon of salt. And I'm going to tell you a little trick or a tip, maybe I should call it, as we put those in to make it to where the salt does not deactivate your yeast. So let's get this in the mixer and mixing up. Alright, so into this we're going to add our 2 cups of warm water and our 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. So then I just take a whisk and I whisk this up so that it starts to dissolve. Try not get in your guys' way. Just tapping in. Okay. Once you have this dissolved, oh, that's really loud, sorry. Alright, so once that is dissolved, the yeast and the water is all together, we are going to add our flour next. Do not add your salt, because if you add your salt at this point, it will harm the yeast. So you are going to just add in your flour, and I'm going to make a mess with this. I always make a mess every time. So you're going to have your 4 cups of flour, and I literally just go ahead and I dump it all in at once. So get my 4 cups here. And you can tell I'm not like super precise. I'm not a precise cook. I wish I could be more precise so I could tell people how I make stuff, but that's just not my style, okay? Alright, so we have got our flour in there. Now we are going to add in our salt on top of our flour. Just right on top. And this is where we will add our bread hook. And I'm going to raise up my KitchenAid. Now you can mix this by hand. I have a KitchenAid, so I use it, right? But you don't have to have a KitchenAid. I'm going to go ahead and start this. I'm going to kind of do a speedy up bit for you guys so that you don't have to hear this loud thing. Alright, so while that was mixing, I went ahead and I put away all my ingredients. And I'm going to get you set up to where you can see what we're going to do next. Alright, so here we have just a glass loaf pan. And I have some of this, I'm sorry, this is I guess technically another ingredient. But I just have some of this olive oil spray, and I'm going to coat this with the olive oil spray. Without. Alright, so I coated that nicely, and that is out. and I'm going to take my flour. Same flour I used for the bread, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of that into my pan. Now this will just help your bread to not stick, that kind of stuff. I'm going to get that out of my way. And I just shake it around to make sure it gets in all the corners. And don't care if it gets onto the counter, because I'm going to actually be bringing my bread out onto this counter. So that's just a little tip. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to spread out that bread that fell onto the counter, and that's where I'm going to put my bread. So whenever I minimize the stuff in my kitchen, I kind of moved everything around, so now I have to like search for things sometimes, so I forget. Oops, take it down would help. Okay, so all you're going to do is to bring this out onto your surface. And this is actually not too sticky this time, so I'm not having to do anything crazy. And so I don't work it too much after it's been in the mixer. If you're doing it by hand, of course you'd be kneading this, but I don't have to do that because of my mixer, which I really like. So I'm just going to form this into a loaf, and I'm going to just kind of pinch the bottom. This will be the bottom, and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to place it into my dish. And I'm going to kind of pat it so that it is relatively even in there. This is not going to look perfect, and I don't really care if it looks perfect because I just hope it tastes good. That's all I ever want. You can add spices and stuff to this, and it's really good. So after we've done this, I'm going to go get my towel to cover it. So I just use a regular tea towel or dish towel, whatever you want to call it, and I put it on my stove. So I'm going to whip you around, and you're going to get to see my crazy area over here. Now, I know that a lot of people won't preheat their oven while their bread is proofing up, but I do because it's so cold in our house, and I need it to be warm. So I actually put that on top of the stove where it's warm, and then cover it, because the warmth will help it to poof up. There's actually some tips that I could give you for poofing it up faster, actually in the oven with some water. And if you're interested in that, we can do that on a different video. I have other ways to do my bread. I can make artisan bread, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so we're going to let that sit for at least a half an hour, and we'll check back on it in just a little bit. Okay, so while that is left to rise, I want to take this opportunity to just chat for a minute. If you don't want to hear me chat about what's going on around the house and you want to skip to the end of the video to see what this bread looks like, that's perfectly fine. But for everyone who is at my channel all the time, I would like to go ahead and do a little chat because we didn't get to do that on Wednesday. So this will be more casual, and I just want to talk to you about some things that are going on around the house. This week has been extremely busy. Even though we haven't done a lot outside of the home, inside our house has been very busy. We are trying our best to get Elizabeth's room ready to paint this next week. So if you've been following us on Instagram and on Facebook, you know that I put out a post, a picture of me covered in sawdust. I think that was yesterday. Anyway, and so we've been working really hard trying to get that done, and it's just everything seems to be slugging along, and it's taking a little longer than, you know, what we'd hope. But we're not going to let that discourage us, and I'm getting flour all over my arm while I'm talking to you. We're not going to let that discourage us, and we're working really hard, and hopefully next week when we have this and that Thursday, we can put a video up of our progress on the remodel, and hopefully by then the room is painted. That is our goal. So make sure you check back this next Thursday for the progress on that, because I will be putting up a video of our progress no matter how far we've gotten. That is the plan. Also, around the house has been a little crazy just because when you are living in your house and remodeling your house at the same time, it can get a little crazy. And so I'm actually looking behind the camera here, and there's a pile of dishes that needs to be done that I haven't had a chance to get to. My daughter's room, which is actually our living room, I had her pick that up yesterday, and today it looks like a tornado went through it again. And that is our living space, that is our homeschooling space, and right now it is also our daughter's bedroom space, so it is very tight in there, and a lot of times we are making like little it's like an obstacle course, just like you have to make little paths, and maybe I'll show you guys that in this next video. Maybe I'll do like a house tour of the craziness that's happening around here right now, just because it's crazy. And so with that comes all the feelings of, you know, not being able to accomplish much, trying to keep the house in order and also do remodel. And then of course for me, I got stressed out this week and I had a little bit of anxiety. And so I've been dealing with that and not being able to sleep well at night, getting just a couple, 3 hours maybe tops of sleep every night is really wearing on me. So you probably can see the dark circles under my eyes, and that is why, because I'm just not getting enough sleep. But we are persevering, and we are going to make some progress on this bedroom, and we have. It's just, it doesn't seem like much just because it's repetitive right now. That was the furnace kicking off. Usually I don't video when the furnace is on. But we are making progress, and hopefully we'll get to spray the walls and do all that kind of stuff. So be looking for that video. And Elizabeth, I wanted to talk to you about Elizabeth and her stop motion. Elizabeth is absolutely loving doing stop motion, and I did do a shout out to Always an Adventure, and I would like to say a big thank you for being an inspiration again to my daughter. She really looks forward to every single video you put out, so keep up the great work. She was inspired by your little mouse video, and she made one that she would like to upload probably this Saturday. We'll be uploading that, so be looking for a bonus video this week on Saturday of her stop motion that she made. Alright, let's get back to our bread and see how it's looking. Alright guys, it has been about 50 minutes, so it took a little longer than normal. I wanted to show you what it looks like. Move that out of the way. So it just rose up to the top here. And this is just what it's looking like right now. And then I'm going to place it into the oven. Alright, so I already put my tripod up, so Michael's going to be my tripod.
And that's why you will see a bunch of this.
It will shake. But we're going to go ahead and cut this open. It's not completely cool, but I need to go ahead and do other things, so we're going to do this. Alright, so there's what the inside looks like. I zoom up for me. It's a more of a denser bread because we only do the one rise, but me and my husband prefer denser bread. So we bake this at 30 minutes at that 450 mark. And if you guys like this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.